Are you a hunk like me, riding around on your 4-year-old EUC because you can't seem to fathom spending 4,000 plus US dollars on a shiny new Chinese wheel? Have you ever thought to yourself, what else can I buy for that money? Well, viewers, I have just the thing for you. It's called a motorcycle, and I think they're a ton of fun too.
Jokes aside, I am happy EUC manufacturers are pushing the limits. I'm just not ready to sink down my hard-earned cash until I see a particular model prove its sensibility, reliability, and longevity. In the meantime, there has been over a century of refinement in the two-wheel category, a category I truly believe should not go overlooked. So today we're going to talk about the pros and cons of each and why you might want to choose one over the other.
Just in case you're not an EUC rider, let's outline some of the key main benefits. The first is that they are extremely portable. You could fit a dozen of these things into the back of your Toyota Echo and still have room for that game of Twister you were going to surprise your Tinder date with. A journey by car will never be the same if you have an EUC with you, because there is no machine better fit for adventure once you arrive at your destination. Secondly, is that these things can go pretty much anywhere. And when I say anywhere, I'll put a little asterisk there. I don't condone riding these things on the highway or in any other situation where you can easily hurt yourself or others. But yeah, I've taken my EUC up and down black mountain bike trails, peaceful pathways at the park, bike routes in busy cities, skate parks, stairs, shopping, you name it. EUCs have truly opened up my mind to the power of personal mobility meets portability. Third is maintenance. Now, other than making sure you're taking good care of your battery, there's actually very little mechanically going on. For non-suspension EUCs, I'd recommend checking the screws once or twice a year and a tire replacement every few thousand miles or so. But other than that, they are pretty much maintenance-free. Fourthly, which is sort of related to the third, is running costs. Now, once you get over the initial burden of amassing all the required stuff to become an EUC rider, the cost per mile is actually ridiculously low. Where I live, electricity costs about 20 cents per kilowatt hour, meaning I can fully charge my veteran Sherman from zero, and even taking into consideration inefficiencies, it will cost me about 75 cents. And with that 75 cents, I can travel well over 70 miles. So with that logic, a mile of travel costs me just over a shiny Canadian penny. But it's not all sunshine and rainbows. Well, at least here in Canada. Although our community is strong and growing, they are still illegal. In Vancouver, people are still being harassed by the police and given $600 no insurance tickets, yet it's impossible to buy insurance for them. Luckily, the court has been ruling in the favor of the riders, but alas, here we are. Another potential downside is their inherent instability. This can actually be an upside when ridden at slow speeds, as it makes them incredibly maneuverable. The downside starts coming into play at high speeds. Although rare for seasoned riders, death wobbles can still happen, seemingly out of nowhere, and can be very tricky to tame once they pass a certain point. This has left many riders with broken bones and egos. Another rare yet worthy point is that these things are being held up and controlled by magic computers, meaning any errors mechanically or computerically can result in the wheel losing balance and you getting to know what the pavement below you feels like. This is, however, about as rare as a tire coming off a bicycle but it can still happen. Lastly is learning curve. Now, if I had a dime for every time somebody declared, I could never ride that thing as I pass by, I would already own that expensive French food processor. The reality is there is a learning curve, but so is learning to ride your bicycle. My father is 63 years old and he owns 2 EUCs and a one wheel. So I guess what I'm trying to say is if you're an able-bodied human, the only limit you have are your own thoughts. Motorcycles. Yes, the same ones your dad had and the same ones mainstream news warned you about in the 1970s. Wow! All they really are is half a car or 2 EUCs. In essence, they're just a vehicle. But let's find out what separates them from an EUC besides just having twice the wheels. The first key main benefit I can think of is that these are road legal, meaning you can buy liability insurance for them. So if you have a seizure, fly off the road and hit someone on one of these, you have some financial protection, unlike the beloved EUC. Being road legal also means that you can share the road with cars, meaning you could jump on your motorcycle and end up in a completely different country if you so choose.
Secondly, is that these are far more comfortable for soaking up miles. I would consider myself to be a seasoned EUC rider, yet a 60-mile ride on one of those is about as tiring as a day of walking around Disneyland. Comparatively, a 60-mile ride on one of these is about as easy as skipping flossing for a day. Obviously, it comes down to the fact that on an EUC, you're usually standing or squatting, hunched over, sitting on a little seat. On the contrary, in motorcycle land, you're usually in a much more natural seating position with a big padded seat. Now, obviously, I'm generalizing a bit here, but I think you catch my drift.
The third benefit is speed. At the time of recording, EUCs top out at around 60 miles an hour. Which is very cool, but also very terrifying. I personally don't see a future where EUCs will be permitted to ride 60 miles per hour on public roads, but hey, the good news is that motorcycles can easily hit 60 miles per hour with added stability to boot. Now, a little motorcycle like the Orange Grom is going to be gnarling and grunting all the way up to 60 miles per hour, but it will eventually hit it and be relatively happy there on flat ground. Now, a motorcycle like this can hit 60 miles per hour in first gear, and it has a 6-speed transmission. So if it's speed you're after, the motorcycle wins every time.
The fourth benefit actually loses to the EUC, but still drastically wins to our arch nemesis, the car, and that is operating costs. Now, a little bike such as this costs me around $2.50 worth of gasoline every 60 miles. On my sport bike, it's around $5 to $7.50. Full insurance on this little bike is around $1.50 a day, and on my sport bike, it is $3 a day. So motorcycles can still be incredibly cheap to operate when compared to their four-wheel counterparts. Now, obviously, this video has nothing to do with cars, but I still wanted to mention it anyways.
The last benefit I'd like to talk about is reliability. Now, EUCs as a whole have proven to be quite reliable, and although the copies I have in my garage have been flawless, QC is still a major issue. In fact, I have fell victim to riding a Lemon, which sucks because, as previously mentioned, when things go wrong electrically or mechanically, you're eating dirt. Now, of course, Lemons can exist in all forms, motorcycles included. That being said, if you buy something that's relatively modern and stock, it's likely to be very, very reliable. Take, for instance, this Honda Grom, which has a single-cylinder 125cc air-cooled four-stroke engine. The very engine that's still currently providing transportation to most of Asia and is the most produced engine in history. They've made 100 million of these things, and for good reason. It is not uncommon to see one of these little engines alive and well past the 100,000 mile mark with proper maintenance. Even my sport bike, which would be logical to think less reliable because it has 10 times the horsepower, but even still, I've seen those with 60,000 miles and still going strong. Now, naturally, you would think a motorcycle would just be less reliable because of all the moving parts going on. But that just goes to show how far we've came into refining them. Now, one day, I hope EUCs will match motorcycles in terms of QC and reliability. But that day isn't today. Now, there are some obvious cons to the motorcycle. The first being is that because they are licensed vehicles, you have to do licensed vehicle things. Bringing them into the grocery store with you is a no-no. You have to leave them out front next to the cars in something called a parking lot, which can be rather frustrating, time-consuming, and rather just pleb feeling. The good news is, though, is if said grocery store was on the other side of town, you likely arrive there quicker on your motorcycle anyways. Another downside to them being road legal is that they require a special license to operate. Well, at least here in North America. Where I'm from, this requires you passing a multiple question exam followed by a road test. The good news is, though, you only have to do it once, then you've got it for life.
Now let's talk about the elephant in the room. Price. Yes, motorcycles off the showroom floor are generally going to be more expensive comparatively, but once you factor in their long-term reliability and parts availability, you quickly realize that buying second-hand isn't too much of a risk at all. In fact, I bought this beautiful little Honda Grom, a 3-year-old bike with only 5,000 miles for, drum roll please,
$1,975 US freedom dollars, which in EUC land buys you something around the InMotion V11, V12. Wheels that get about 40 miles of range and do about 30 to 40 miles an hour. On the contrary, for the same money, you could buy a Honda Grom, a motorcycle that does 70 miles an hour if you skip breakfast, watch for hills, and fart between gears. The range is about 160 miles, and refilling, takes all of about 2 minutes, then you're good for another 160 miles. Now, the latest EUC Leaper Kim's current flagship, the Lynx, costs well over double that price. This bike right here is a 2018 Honda CB650 FA with some tasteful mods, 5,000 miles and around 100 horsepower. New, the MSRP is around 9,000 US dollars, but take a stab at what I bought this for. I'll give you a second. I bought this for $4,200, which is the exact same price as a new Veteran Lynx. And the great thing about buying these bikes towards the end of their depreciation is, if I decide to sell them in a few years, for one, there'll always be a large number of potential buyers, and for two, I won't take much of a financial hit, if any, granted I take care of them and follow the maintenance schedule. There was once a time where EUCs held pretty good value on the secondary market, but unfortunately that ship has sailed, as today you can buy a used Veteran Sherman in pretty good shape for about 1,000 US dollars. But I'm not here to tell you which one is better or which one is a better value. I'm just simply trying to shine some light on the pros and cons of each and how new EUCs are now priced to compete with nice, almost new motorcycles. So if you have some money burning a hole in your pocket and you've always wanted to try a motorcycle, you wouldn't be wrong in choosing one. Anyways, thanks for watching to the end. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content like this, and I'll catch you guys in another video. Peace.